think you have won. Time will tell. Far easier to claim something than hold on to it. They will turn on you in time, when you hear the whispers and see the blades drawn. Remember my face.
I won't remember you at all. Nobody will.
Hey guys, it's Stevie Gamer Girl here. Welcome back to my channel. So today I have a video idea of ranking the Baldur's Gate 3 boss fights. I don't really want to do it in terms of difficulty. I feel like difficulty can vary a lot just depending on what difficulty level you choose. Like honor mode is wildly different than any of the other modes. I have played Baldur's Gate in every single difficulty and completed it at this point, but I'm more interested in ranking them just in terms of how memorable they are, how fun they are, how interesting the fight is, if I like the villain, etc. So those are kind of the factors that I'm going to be using. So my S through D tier, S tier is Legendary Encounter, A tier is Strongly Engaging, B tier is A Solid Duel, C tier is Random Encounter Energy, and D tier is Forgettable. So let's start with Priestess Gut. Okay, Priestess Gut I feel like is literally so forgettable. I don't know, they make a big deal about killing all the goblin leaders in Act 1, but Priestess Gut, if you bring her into that little chamber room, you can literally just kill her in one turn. Like, you don't even, sometimes she doesn't even get a chance to fight back. It does get a little bit annoying if she calls for help and the other goblins come and it turns into a little bit of a bigger encounter, but honestly, she's just so lame and forgettable that I'm gonna put her in D tier. I just don't find that interesting whatsoever. Next for Dror Ragzlin, he is actually kind of intimidating. I feel like he can be really, really powerful, especially if you're a little bit under-leveled when you're fighting him. He has some really, really strong attacks, and I've had some bad situations with him before for sure. There's a bigger crowd of goblins at the time that you're fighting him. The fight is a little bit more memorable and interesting. He's probably the one that I kind of wait to actually try to fight until I'm a little bit higher level. I'm gonna honestly, I mean, he's not my favorite or anything, but I think I'll put him in Solid Duel. He's pretty memorable, he's pretty good, he has some good attacks, so it's not like a throwaway, super easy fight, kind of like the Priestess Gut one can be. Okay, next for Minthara. You know, Minthara, she has so much kind of lore tied to her. The fact that you can knock her out, and then get her back in Act 2, or if you're going the evil route, you can actually side with her and go and raid the grove with her, which is really interesting. So, you know, if you do go the route of fighting Minthara in the actual goblin camp and just kill her there, there's really not that much that happens. It's not a very interesting fight, but she does have, you know, a ton of lore and just other things that happen with her in the game. So it's kind of hard to rank her. But, you know, for the purpose of this video, I guess I will just rank her as in when we just fight her inside the goblin camp. And that is a pretty easy battle. I feel like it's not very memorable. And she's in a small room off to the side by herself, so there's not even a big audience of that fight. So unless the scrying eye ends up calling for help and turns it into a bigger battle, Minthara is actually really easy to kill. I'm gonna put her in Random Encounter Energy just based on that boss fight alone. Okay, next for Auntie Ethel. Oh god, I just hate Auntie Ethel so much. But I do feel like her fight is really interesting in terms of her kind of running away from you and leading you down the fireplace into that giant area where she has that tree and all her followers are there and everything, and then you go down and you fight her with Mayrina in the cage. And I love that she spawns different versions of her. It reminds me just like a lot of Zelda boss fights, because a lot of mini bosses or even main bosses in Zelda have this trope of spawning multiple instances of themselves and you have to guess which one is the right one. So it's like a nice callback to that mechanic. Her fight is, you know, really annoying, particularly in honor mode when you can't use spells without having repercussions. So I just, you know, I'm actually gonna put her in strongly engaging. Even though I don't really enjoy that fight per se, I feel like it has a lot of interesting mechanics, and I really like that, you know, lower layer that she has. I feel like it makes her kind of a more memorable boss than some of the others. Also the fact that you can encounter her again later in Act 3 it is, I believe. So she does also make a comeback. It's not like a one and done type situation. So I'm gonna put her in strongly engaging because she is interesting, honestly. Okay, next for Grym. Oh, Grym is kind of one of the fights that I try to avoid. It's one of the fights that I skip a lot of the time. I wouldn't say it's necessarily very difficult per se. It's just, I hate navigating the Underdark, and I hate navigating to Grimforge and dealing with that boss. It's more of the tedium of getting there that is the problem for me. The fight itself is interesting, especially if you try to hit him with the hammer to kill him more efficiently, hit him with the forge hammer. I think there's an achievement for killing him without using the forge hammer, which I got really early on because I found it really annoying to try to strategically place him near the hammer to actually hit him with it. I feel like it's easier to just kind of brute force hit him with like a barbarian or a fighter or both. I don't know, I really don't like Grym. I know you can get a lot of good armor from doing that area, so I feel like that's primarily the reason that people do it. I think I'm just gonna put him in C tier. I don't know, I just don't really like that fight very much, and I find it tedious to get to that point, honestly. Yeah, there's the lava mechanics and stuff, but I find that more annoying than anything. Okay, now for True Soul Nere. That's kind of an interesting fight to me because you can side so many different ways. And that's a really huge audience for that fight. There's so many people involved in that fight. Fighting him is generally pretty interesting. I don't really remember him being particularly difficult at any point. It's kind of just more one of the longer fights that happen, but I generally try to go and kill Nere almost immediately and then deal with the rest of the drows and whatnot. So I think I'm gonna put Nere probably in solid duel. I feel like it's a pretty extensive fight, and I like how you have to kind of blow up the area that he's trapped into, and then he comes out and then the fight begins. And I think it's really interesting how you can literally behead him and bring his head to the mushrooms. So is it the, why am I calling them the mushrooms? They definitely have a specific name, but you guys will know what I mean. The mushrooms in the Underdark. The ones that dance. The myconoids, not the mushrooms. Oh my god. Okay, next for Yurgir. Okay, Yurgir, I feel like you guys are gonna think I'm weird for putting him so high, but I feel like he belongs in Legendary Encounter just because it's so interesting all the different ways that this encounter can go. I didn't even know the first time I played that you can completely talk him out of the fight and just make him kill himself and go to hell, basically. You can convince him that that's how he's gonna stop hearing the contract song. The other way to deal with Yurgir is to help him get out of the contract. And that is the actual solution for that, is that there is still a remaining Dark Justiciar in the form of multiple rats at the bottom of the Gauntlet of Shar area, and you have to go kill them off in order for him to finally be free. So that's another path you can take, or you can just directly fight Yurgir and kill him off. I mean, those are the three options. So I feel like it's really interesting that there's so much complexity to how you can deal with his situation. And another interesting thing is I learned all this lore about his actual Displacer Beast and how he's been feeding his Displacer Beast this certain kind of plant or potion thing that keeps the Displacer Beast attached to him in this kind of romantic way. It's very weird. It's the spider flesh scene. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but that was news to me that the Displacer Beast is kind of not in its right mind, and it's serving him because it's intaking this substance that makes it want to be with him. It's a little bit weird, and you can actually recruit that Displacer Beast to help you in the fight against Yurgir, which is really interesting to me as well. Okay, next for Balthazar. I mean, Balthazar is just such an annoying villain. He's so egotistical. I hate that about him. Balthazar, I would say if you fight him in the upstairs room before you even go down to Nightsong, that fight is much, much easier than if you actually go down to Nightsong and fight Balthazar down there, because there's just so many more enemies and Balthazar teleports around a lot and he's just really frustrating to fight, I feel like, there. Regardless, I mean, it's a pretty interesting fight no matter where you fight him, but I don't know, I don't really like him very much, and I just don't find that fight that interesting or fun. So I think I'll just put him in probably solid duel. I don't know, he's not that, he's good, but he's not great, I guess. I don't know. Okay, next for Kethric, I'm primarily just gonna talk about, well, I guess he has multiple phases, but I'm gonna talk about him all together in terms of Merkel and his normal form. Kethric is the boss that trips me up the most in honor mode. He, I feel like, is so difficult in honor mode. Every time that I've tried to fight him in some type of organic, normal way in honor mode, it's so difficult. I feel like the best strategy for honor mode is to just get a bunch of smoke powder barrels, surround him with that when he's in the Merkel phase, and just blow him up. That's been the easiest solution, honestly, for killing him in honor mode. But if you don't prepare or strategize for that, he's much more difficult, in my opinion. I literally hate the Kethric fight so much, but I do really think it's a very interesting fight, especially that he transforms into the Merkel halfway through, and that he can heal himself from all the necromancers around him, taking their souls, healing himself. That is a very annoying mechanic, but it's interesting. Also, when you go on top of the platform to actually hit him in that form, the fact that it's bone chilled and you can't heal yourself makes it very difficult. And also, I just kind of like his lore about, you know, it's almost like a dad trying to protect his daughter, and he goes way too far and kind of loses sight of what's right. So I think it's kind of interesting. So I'm actually going to put Kethric in Legendary Encounter. I really enjoy that fight. I mean, I don't enjoy it, but I think it's interesting to the story. Next for Sarevok. So Sarevok is kind of who you encounter before you go to Orin. Generally from Sarevok, you will get the Amulet of Baal, either by fighting him or by becoming Baal's chosen, depending on if you're going the evil route or not. Fighting Sarevok, you know, honestly, in harder difficulties, it's kind of difficult because all of the echoes around him, as you kill them, he inherits their powers, so he gets stronger and stronger as you kill off his surrounding enemies. He also has some really powerful moves where if he hits you a couple of times, you might honestly just die from how heavy his attacks are, honestly. And he has a couple of phases where it's nearly impossible to attack him. You have like a 1% chance or something of hitting him until he gets rid of certain layers of protection. I do find that fight really interesting, and it can be really difficult for what's somewhat not even a major boss. I think I'm actually gonna put him in Strongly Engaging, because I like the challenge. I like the challenge of fighting him. The echoes kind of granting him their powers when they die is a very interesting mechanic as well. Okay, next for Loroakkan, I just hate that fight. I hate that guy. I hate that fight. A lot of the time I just skip it. I don't really like the elementals, and it's just a really annoying character. He's kind of like a wannabe villain to me. He tries so hard to be a villain and he's just so bad at it. I'm gonna put him in Forgettable because I literally skip that fight 99% of the time. Okay, Ansur the Dragon. I actually really enjoy that because I feel like it's very heavy on the lore between the Emperor and Ansur. There's a lot of weight there with Will and his dad as well, with his dad kind of giving him the pointers to go and find Ansur. I really like that whole dungeon where you go through all of the different puzzles to unlock your way to get to the main, you know, dragon. And you get a lot of cool legendary loot and stuff out of Ansur, and you just get to know so much more about the story and the history of Baldurin. So, and you can kind of draw your own conclusions about how you feel about the relationship, etc. I think I'm gonna put Ansur in strongly engaging. I just really do enjoy that fight. I mean, I don't really find it necessarily difficult extensively per se, but it's a fun fight. Okay, next we're Cazador. Cazador, oh my gosh. The first thing I think of when I think about Cazador is how the first time I ever played Honor Mode, Cazador fight was really, really tough. I feel like nearly died doing the Cazador fight in Honor Mode. But Cazador overall, I love how much lore there is with Astarion. There's also kind of a sense of urgency with Astarion getting pulled into the ritual. There's so many ways that this fight can go with Cazador ascending, or Astarion can ascend, or, you know, no, you kill Cazador and no one ascends. Like, there's a lot of ways that this battle can go. I also find it really fun to fight Cazador with daylight type spells. It's so powerful against him that it's actually fun to do that. I would say, I'm also gonna put Cazador in strongly engaging. I would almost put him in legendary, but I think it's not necessarily legendary. You know what I mean? Actually, now that I've done Cazador, I realized that I forgot Viconia from House of Grief, so let me add her really quick. Okay, I've added Viconia. There's no way I could do Cazador, but not Viconia. I think her fight is really, really tough sometimes because all of the Sharin, the way that they teleport through the darkness and all of the spells they cast, etc., can make that fight really, really rough, especially because there's just so many of them. I feel it makes it really difficult. I wouldn't say Viconia is necessarily that difficult herself, but just the sheer volume of people in that fight make that battle really, really annoying, and I always dread doing it. That being said, it is really interesting because the way that they fight is interesting. They're completely using these specific spells, and it makes it harder for your party to navigate through the fight, basically. And I've also done that fight as Shadowheart being a Dark Justiciar, and it's kind of interesting because you can have a lot of the other Sharin turn against Viconia and help you in the fight, which is interesting. So I like how it can go that way as well. I would say, honestly, this is another strongly engaging fight. It's very lore heavy. There's so many different ways the fight can go. You have to play pretty strategically in order to kind of optimize how you're doing the fight, so it doesn't last forever and ever and ever. I've definitely had some strats of putting a wall of fire or something like that, so the Sharins have to run through it, but sometimes they will teleport past it, and it's really annoying. So I don't know, there's a lot of strategies you can use, but I think it's very interesting. So I would say strongly engaging. Next, let's talk about Raphael. Okay, Raphael is obviously going in Legendary Encounter. The entire House of Hope is centered around this epic battle with him at the end. The entire time you're trying to get through the House of Hope, everything is pointing to this giant fight at the end. And then his music is so cinematic, and I just love the vibes of House of Hope. It's really interesting how if Yurgir is there, you can have Yurgir turn against Raphael. And just the way that Raphael fights is really interesting. Trying to keep hope alive is interesting. And just the music and the vibes, he's very clearly S tier. There's no question about that. I feel like that's one of the most interesting fights in the game almost, because the entire quest is centered around this battle. Next, let's talk about Orin. Orin, again, I will also be putting her in Legendary Encounter, particularly because if you play as Dark Urge, you get to have the one-on-one duel with her. That is so very different than when you're playing as any other character, so I love that it has that kind of variety. And just like the fact that she is in her Slayer form and you can fight her in that form. I just find it a really interesting fight, and also that she's kidnapped someone and has them on the table as a sacrifice and you're trying to save them. It kind of adds a sense of urgency, and I just kind of love how crazy Orin is. It's kind of, there's something really appealing about her as a villain, honestly. Okay, next let's talk about Gortash. Yeah, this might sound kind of weird to you guys, but I almost never fight Gortash unless I'm trying to particularly romance Karlach or someone in the party is romancing Karlach. I find it easiest to just partner with him and go to the Netherbrain, and then the Netherbrain just kills him in one shot and you don't even have to deal with him. Ever since I discovered that that was a path, I've pretty much never fought him anymore after that, because I don't like doing the Steel Watch stuff, and I don't know, it's much easier to just partner with Gortash. That being said, in the times that I do fight him, I do feel like it's kind of annoying because you have to either go through all the hassle of disabling the Steel Watch, or you have to kind of strategically kill him in a way that the Steel Watch don't get triggered. And he does have some moves that are kind of difficult to avoid, and his entire layer is trapped up, so there's so many ways that you can die in there. I remember, I think the last time I killed him, I cast the Otto's Irresistible Dance on him, and he was dancing for 10 turns, and it was so much easier to take him out that way. Thankfully that worked. I think I'll just put him in Strongly Engaging. It's a pretty intense fight if you do it, but I don't know, it's just a fight that I don't care to do usually because I partner with him. Okay, next for the Netherbrain. I mean, the Netherbrain fight is kind of epic in its own regards because, you know, it's the end game final boss battle. That being said, I feel like it is a little bit underwhelming for a final boss battle. I feel like a lot of the time you kind of spend fighting like the dragon or the random people on the Netherbrain, the Dream Guardians, etc. You're fighting those people primarily and a bunch of mind flayers while you get up to the actual area to enter the Netherbrain psyche. And then once you get inside is when you're actually fighting the Netherbrain where with the platforms and everything. It's just not one of my favorite fights. I feel like it's okay, but I don't know. I would expect something a little bit more epic, I feel like, as an end game battle. I mean, I guess going to try to cast that spell to enter the Netherbrain is kind of interesting in its own aspect, but I just find it annoying more than anything, trying to rush the party up to that area and just like fighting everything on the side while you're doing that. So weirdly enough, I think I'm gonna put that in Solid Duel. I really just don't like that fight. Honestly, it should be higher, I feel like, but I just personally don't like it. Let me know what you guys think about that. Also, oh my gosh, I realized there was a couple more people that I forgot, so I'm just throwing them in at the end here. In terms of the Inquisitor, it's really not my favorite. Like I said before, the Kresh is not my favorite at all. I really don't enjoy the fights there. I mean, the Inquisitor isn't super difficult. I mean, I feel like he was kind of hard in honor mode, but in other difficulties, I don't find the battle that tough. It's him and just a handful of other Githyanki. I think I'm honestly gonna put it in probably random encounter energy because I literally kind of almost forgot that that's even considered a boss, because I just find that fight not so tough, I guess. It doesn't really feel like a boss, it feels more just like another random encounter. Next for Malus Thorm, I find this fight so intriguing. It's so interesting, and I also love that there's so many variations, and you can have the nurses kill each other, or you can have them kill him. And you know, you can also go ahead and do the fight with all the nurses and with him, or you can just fight him, and he has a ton of health, which is a pretty big battle. But I love all the variety and, you know, the choices that you can make, and the fact that you can end the fight without actually doing the fight. So I'm gonna put him in Strongly Engaging just because I love the versatility of that fight. Next for Thisobald Thorm, honestly, I feel like he's just like my friend. I feel like we're just drinking together, sharing stories. I hate that it ever turns into a battle at all, and generally I go with the approach where we drink so much that he just explodes and dies by himself. So again, I love the versatility of the fact that, you know, you can just have him kill himself rather than having to do the fight with him. I know he is pretty annoying if you do want to fight him, but I think I've only fought him once ever. I don't know, typically I don't really do this fight. I think I'm just gonna put him in solid duel. Even though I like the versatility of that fight, I just, you know, end up usually not doing it. It was not very memorable to me. Also, it's like a complete side quest. Whereas Malus Thorm, if you want to do the Halsin lifting of the Shadow Curse, you have to go through the House of Healing at some point. So it feels more main to the story than Thisobald Thorm. Toll Collector, you know, that one is a pretty interesting one. I think I've actually genuinely fought it one time ever, and I remember it being really, really difficult, but usually I just skip over the Toll Collector completely. I know there's also strategies where you give her all of the gold, and then you, after you kill the boss, you can get all of your gold back, etc. But I don't know. It's very skippable to me. I don't know. I feel like this is just a me thing because I don't play it very often, but I'm gonna put it in random encounter energy because it's just very minor to me, and I skip it all the time. So that concludes, I think, the bosses that I want to rank and how I feel about them. It's kind of funny because the tier list is probably not what you would expect in terms of where these placements are, but it's just, you know, my personal opinion. Let me know if you agree or disagree, what you think about the villains. Let me know if you have more video ideas. I would love to listen to them and do them. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy my content. I've been thinking about starting a Discord server. Well, I used to have one, but I want to kind of open up membership to that Discord again. So I'm kind of looking into doing that. So if you'd be interested in that in some form, definitely let me know as well. I'll be working on that. I hope you guys are having a great week, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.